Well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight on our series of virtual travel talks until we can all meet up again in person. My name is Susan Walker, franchise partner of Expedia Cruises here in Red Deer, along with some of my team members that have also joined us. We are, while we can't travel obviously right at the moment, we are super excited about the possibilities and the trips that we can take for 2022 and 2023. Demand has really started to go up. We've had a fabulous February. March is proving to be equally as busy. So feels good to be back into business again. So if you are thinking of traveling in the next couple of years, everything will sell out. Things are selling out. Next year's in some instances are sold out or 50%. So this is a great time, great opportunity. Thank you for joining us. We're super excited to have you. And of course, I am equally thrilled to introduce our very good friend, a huge supporter of our office, Tom with Holland America. Welcome, Tom.
Hi, Susan. Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Yeah, so this is exciting. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box and we will answer at the end, or we'll definitely take Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if you've got yourself all muted, I think that, Tom, are you ready to take it away and start this evening off?
I certainly am. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, well, I'm going to try and share my screen right now. So give me 2 seconds while I pull up the screen. Hopefully you'll be able to all see this clearly now. Can you see the lovely Westerdam on your screen there?
We can.
Fantastic. Okay, so yeah, let's get started. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's always a pleasure to see everyone virtually. Like Susan said, we can't do it in person, but this is the next best thing. So thanks for joining. Before we start talking about all of the fun stuff, and by the way, I should probably scroll to my next slide so you can see my high school picture there, in case you're wondering what I look like in the PowerPoint presentation, just in case. But before we get into the cruises and the destinations and the fun stuff on board ship, I do want to address some important things that you may already have questions about. And that is essentially what we are currently doing in terms of our return to sail. We are working around the clock. We're working with the CDC, the WHO, jurisdictions, national governments, delegations, to put in place those protocols and procedures that you'll be seeing when we return to sail. Now, these are actually available for you to read. They're on the Holland America website. You can also get them from your Expedia Cruises consultant. They have access to them. As soon as these are updated, they have them accessible for you. Now, you won't find pages and pages of information. It's more limited. That's actually by design. We don't want to give you too much information and extra information that we're going to have to redact or retract or contradict. We want to give you the information that's been ratified and confirmed as we develop it. So watch this space. As we get closer to that return to sail date, you'll see more of this and more specifics. So do check back on those if you're curious and you have questions on those. So with that said, let's get on to the fun stuff. Like I said, it's always a pleasure to connect with folks like this. I've been working for Holland America for many years. I've worked not just in this role, I've worked for many years on board ship. It's actually a cruise line that's so close to my heart and I'm so passionate about. I met my wife on board a Holland America Line ship. We've named our children after Holland America Line ships. Little Zuiderdam is 4 and Noordam is almost 7. Now I'm joking, but we do call them the Dam Kids, affectionately, of course. But it is a cruise line that is so close to my heart, and I know for many of you also. I know this evening some of you who are joining have cruised Holland America many times before. In fact, up until just before we stopped sailing, some of you have cruised in the past, maybe not that recently, and some of you haven't cruised Holland America at all. So this evening, I'm going to kind of touch all the bases and give you a little bit of an introduction of Holland America, give you some updates of some things you wouldn't have seen before, some new developments, and we're going to talk about those fabulous destinations. We just kind of cherry picked a couple to talk about this evening that are very popular and kind of give you some exclusive information on some new itineraries. So for those of you who have never sailed Holland America, I love these few sentences here. It really encapsulates Holland America in a nutshell. We are the cruise line dedicated to explorers, foodies, and music lovers. Something else that we quite often mention is we don't have things like water slides, go-karts, roller coasters, ice rinks. There is a market for those things, cruise ships that have those things, but there's a growing market for folks who have, say, been there, done that, maybe looking for maybe more touches of luxury, more spacious staterooms, and for folks who have only ever sailed on very small ships and they want something a bit bigger with more amenities and more things to do, but they don't want those crowds. So that's why Holland America occupies this wonderful sweet spot, as it were. So with the Holland America Line experience, as I mentioned, we talk about explorers, foodies, and music lovers being attributes that our guests have. If you're any one of those three things or a combination of, Holland America is perfect for you. But there are a couple of other things that we're known for. One of them is the ships themselves. There's something kind of classic and timeless about a Holland America ship. The dark blue hulls, the wraparound teak decks. But one thing is key, and that's the size. We don't say mid-size anymore because there are some other lines, cruise lines out there that used to be the same size as us and have now grown. You know, we only have about, say, average of about 2,000 guests on board. But there are other lines that also say they're mid-size, but have now grown to 3,600 guests, 4,000 guests. So that's why we prefer to call ourselves perfectly sized, refreshingly uncrowded. But I love pointing out unique facts about Holland America Line ships. And whenever I see this picture right here, one thing always jumps out at me, and it's something that doesn't get mentioned that often. That's the Magradome roof. On the left-hand side there, just towards the edge of the screen, you see this sliding roof that comes across. That's unique to Holland America Line ships. Because we sail 365 days a year to all sorts of destinations around the world. There's often days when it's raining, there's inclement weather, and we can just slide across that Magradome, and so our guests can carry on enjoying the pool deck, the Lido pool area. On other lines, that doesn't necessarily happen. On other cruise ships where they don't have a roof, if it's raining, everyone goes down inside the ship and makes it even more crowded. So that's just one unique feature I sometimes like to point out. But there's lots of cool features and things happening on board ship, whether it's entertainment or enrichment or just fun and kind of fun stuff and activities. I'm not going to touch on all of it. I might mention one or two, but there's a lot going on kind of under the hood, so to speak. And Holland America is really kind of pulling in kind of cruisers from all across the cruise spectrum, so to speak. Anniversary couples, sisters, reunions, girls getaway, all sorts of type of kind of cruise groups, family groups. So you know, where you've got the grandkids, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, everyone's on board. Often for things like 7-day Alaska cruises, that works, or 7-day Caribbean cruises. We actually have quite a few kids on board. We might not be the cruise line that you often associate with, you know, having a lot of children on board, but in our kind of peak season on our 7-day cruises to Alaska, we may have 200, 300 kids on board and young cruisers on board. But often our guests will say, I've heard there are all these children on board, I don't see them. That's because we keep them up in Club Howell. We've got this entire deck area, one entire deck dedicated to them, and that's where they hang out. So yeah, there's something for the whole family on board when it comes to those shorter cruises. Obviously, as the cruises get longer, there are fewer of the younger cruisers on board. So I mentioned that Holland America is perfect for explorers. What I mean by this is we really have kind of a depth and breadth of kind of length and variation of itineraries that isn't common in the cruise industry. You don't usually get both of those things together. It's usually one or the other. And we've also been going to these far-flung destinations for many, many years. We're 150 years old next year. You know, that's quite astounding. And we've developed relationships with ports, countries, and jurisdictions and maritime authorities that go back decade upon decade upon decade, which often gives us top billing in ports. It allows us to kind of curate and tweak our itineraries, not just from those relationships and what that allows us to do, but also our expertise. So there's that aspect too. We've been immersing guests in destinations authentically for a long time. It's not something new we're suddenly trying to do. And foodies, we've always been a cruise line for foodies as far as I'm concerned. But I think what makes Holland America stand out is Holland America is it kind of occupies a perfect middle ground, again, a wonderful balance. Because if you look out there in the cruise industry, what you'll often see when it comes to food on board, which is, let's face it, a reason why so many of us travel and go on cruises, because there's so many great options on board cruise ships. But what Holland America does is essentially, we're not like those very small ships that you see, very small ship lines, where maybe you just get one main dining room and then perhaps one alternate option or casual option for the whole cruise. And we're also not like those mega ships out there where you have that dining room where it's the same menu every day. And then if you want to eat anywhere different, you've got 15 paid restaurants you need to eat in. With Holland America, you've got the classic dining room experience, whether it's open seating or fixed seating, where the menu rotates every day. Then you've got 3, 4, or 5 specialty venues, something a little bit different to mix it up, try something different throughout the cruise. So yeah, it's that kind of perfect balance again, a sweet spot, as you will, as we're talking about culinary. A big part of it too is the fact we don't just kind of hitch our wagon to one celebrity chef. We have a team of 8 individuals. Many of them you've probably seen on the Food Network. Several of them are Michelin star chefs. They have their own cookbooks and, as I say, are proprietors of restaurants, some incredible individuals, each with their own unique talent, and they all kind of inject their creativity into the menus and keep the menus fresh on board, rather than just kind of one celebrity chef name. So that's a big part of our success. Something we're doing with food that you might find interesting if you haven't cruised with us for a while is we are really big into kind of the culinary off the ship. Our food and wine tours, our culinary tours in partnership with Food and Wine magazine. This really came about based off of kind of the success of river cruising, 10, 15 years ago. A lot of folks went and tried river cruising, did those kind of classic two or three river cruises, and then came back to ocean cruising because there's just more destinations to visit. When they came back to ocean cruising, something they expressed to us was, we really want more of that up close and personal experience in the ports. We want to break bread with locals. We want to meet the families behind those, very old historical restaurants and cafes, see how they're using their locally sourced ingredients for traditional recipes, see how they're being harvested, really to get under the skin with food locally. So that's something we do in all parts of the world, not just the culinary hotspots that you'll probably think like Europe and Asia. Even in Alaska, we've got some amazing kind of foodie tours in the port. We've got walking tours where you get off the beaten track and you go into some of the top kitchens and restaurants in the top hotels and meet the chefs, see how they're using locally sourced ingredients, sample the wonderful food they're creating, or going out onto going to see how the oysters are cultivated from the larvae and then harvested, and how the kelp is harvested and what they produce with that. So that it really applies across all of our itineraries. So that's something really what we're trying to, or something I should say, we're trying to elevate in terms of the port experience. I mentioned music, and that's another great reason why so many folks like to cruise, to just unwind, kick back, dance, whatever you have in mind. It's often enjoying the evening entertainment. We shook things up a few years ago, probably about 4 years ago, maybe more now, and created something very different to what you'll typically see on a cruise ship, and that is something called Music Walk. We decided to create a beating heart and soul, rather than having music venues spread out throughout the ship, quite a distance away from one another. We decided to put them all along the same deck, so they're still spread out but easily walkable between each one. And each one of these venues is a purpose-built venue for a set of professional musicians who are expert, super experienced in their particular genre. So it's not a case of cruise ship musicians jumping from lounge to lounge, changing their jacket, changing their badge, playing a different style. You've got the BB King's All-Star Band in BB King's Blues Club. They've all passed through Beale Street, Memphis, the BB King's Blues Club itself. They've got their experience, sometimes veterans of the industry, and they're an 8-piece band that get the entire lounge up on their feet dancing. They're playing anything from Chuck Berry to Rolling Stones, Bruno Mars, Beyonce, whatever gets the crowd on their feet across the generations. They're just incredible. They knock it out the park every night. And then you've got Billboard on board. What we did is we took the kind of the small kind of space piano bar, which was always busy but very, very cramped because it was so popular. We opened it up, utilized an area that wasn't being used, created this wonderful open space with its own lounge, with its own bar, this spacious lounge with dueling pianos. So you've got two piano entertainers. That means more laughs, jokes, sing-alongs. And I love this lounge because on the first night of a cruise, when I'm on board, I love standing there, watching the folks walk by, and they'll stop and start to listen, and they'll stand there for the entire set. And then I'll see them back and be in a Billboard on board every night of the cruise. They're dedicated followers. Then Lincoln Center Stage. This is an awesome little spot. These are musicians who have come through Lincoln Center, the institution for classical music in North America, and they're just phenomenal. It's one of my favorite things to do when you come back from port and you just want to kind of, after you've kind of say come back on board ship from a short excursion or wherever you've been, you get refreshed, kind of relax for a bit, then you get ready to go for dinner. Before you head to the dining room, I just love to grab a cocktail, sit there in Lincoln Center Stage, and let their incredible performances just wash over me. It's almost like meditative. Their performances are truly out of this world. So that's a cool venue. So yeah, music is really big for us. There's another lounge that I'm going to tell you about in a short while, but I want to move on, tell you about some other bits and pieces. Now, the service on board in the industry, whatever cruise line you're sailing with, it is fantastic. That's why so many of us cruise. With Holland America, I think what helps us kind of go that extra mile and have kind of created such a reputation is the crew members themselves in the beverage department, the culinary team, the housekeeping team. We are recognized not just in the cruise industry, but our name is often checked, in the retail industry outside of the tourism segment. Holland America is mentioned as kind of an exemplary, kind of an example of great service. And we're very proud of that. And for many of you who have cruised with us before, I'm sure you're in agreement with me right now. So let's look at the damn ships themselves. There's 11 gorgeous sisters in the damn fleet. I'm going to just talk about one of them right off the bat because it's very exciting. This year sees the introduction of a new flagship, the Rotterdam. She will be delivered later this year. She is one of the Pinnacle class ships. She'll be the third sister in the Pinnacle class. And these ships, by the way, they're not even 100,000 tons, just under 100,000 tons, 2,600 guests. So that's still on the mid-size, kind of mid-size of the industry. When you look at the size of ships overall, we haven't even gone past 100,000 tons yet, where other cruise lines may have reached, 130, 140, 150,000 tons recently. So that's great news for our cruisers who like the mid-size ship. And these Pinnacle class ships have been really taken to the heart of our mariners who cruise all the Holland America ships in the fleet. But Rotterdam is very special because she bears the name Rotterdam. That is the very first ship that ever sailed for Holland America, and she becomes the 87th ship in the to ever bear the Holland America flag. She is actually the 7th ship to bear the name Rotterdam. So this is a very special occasion. We're very excited. She is on schedule. She will be delivered on time. We have been getting reports from the shipyard that she is running to schedule, in many cases ahead of schedule. So that's great news. I'm going to give you a little teaser here of some of the interiors. I can't stop for too long on these slides because I don't want to take too much of your time this evening, but it gives you a little teaser of what those suites and staterooms look like on board. And that's the beautiful dining room on board ship. So there she is right now in the yard. We're actually working on the interior fittings right now. She's being fitted out internally. So she's an absolutely gorgeous ship. That's her sitting there in the Fincantieri shipyards just outside Venice in Mestre. And I'm going to tell you about some of her itineraries. I would love to sit here and tell you about all of the Holland America itineraries, but we just don't have time. So as I said earlier, I've cherry-picked a few itineraries and a few destinations that I think you'd be very interested in hearing about, whether you're new to Holland America or you're a mariner who's cruised with us before. I'm going to start with Europe. the thing about Europe with Holland America is we have let's say, a DNA that is uncommon in the cruise industry. And that is the fact that we've got this 150-year history and deep ties and connections to Europe, very authentic ties. That is where Holland America's heart and soul is. So we can deliver authentic Europe experiences because that is Holland America's backyard. That's where Holland America started sailing. But by the same token, we have had a headquarters in North America for the last 40 years or so. So we have a product that's specifically designed and built for the North American mindset. You don't see that in the cruise industry, that kind of European heart and North American mindset. It's usually one or the other. So our guests come from all over the world to sail with Holland America, but the product itself is designed for North American guests. We don't have ships deployed to different markets in the world for those locals from those countries and regions to sail. They do come and sail with us, but the product is North America centric in that respect. But like I say, there's these deep ties to Europe which show on board. It's a bit like when, and this is kind of from my experience from sailing on board, I found this, it's a bit like if you've ever had an experience where you have a friend or family member who's moved overseas or to a city or somewhere you're not familiar with, and you go to visit them and they show you around town, they show you around the city and give you the inside scoop so you feel like a local. That's what it's like cruising with Holland America. It is Holland America's spiritual backyard, so to speak. So in 2022, and that's really what I'm going to talk about this evening, because I know there's just so much interest in 2022. As Susan mentioned right at the beginning, there's a lot of planning and dreaming and folks who are getting kind of multiple itineraries lined up on the back burner for 2022 into 2023 even. I've even had a few conversations about 2024 recently. So I'm going to really talk about 2022 for the most part. So we've got some of the marquee ports in Northern Europe that we'll be sailing to. I'm not going to mention all of them. One that stands out when I see it on the screen here, just truly phenomenal place, Bruges, the port town being Zeebrugge for Bruges. When I see that photo, I just think of strolling those canals, the smell of the fresh chocolate being created, the moulin frites, the Belgian Trappist beers. Oh, it's just a sight for sore eyes. The architecture, it's such a gorgeous place. There's so many of these slightly lesser known kind of gems in Northern Europe that we visit along with our big marquee ports like Reykjavik in Iceland for the Blue Lagoon or Bergen in Norwegian fjords. I'm going to show you some sailings, not all of the sailings in Northern Europe. I love to talk about this one because it hits a few nails on the head, this one. It's a way to get the Norwegian fjords with Iceland, because Iceland is that destination that's hot right now. But for some folks, they think, well, if I go to Iceland, then I have to come back. That's it. There's so many other places in Northern Europe I'd like to see. This is a way to combine it. You've got the fjords, you've got Iceland, including a 2-day stay in Reykjavik, the beautiful Shetland Islands. So you can see our friend here, the Shetland ponies in their natural habitat, the Neolithic remains, Invergordon for Loch Ness, Edinburgh. And these sailings, and this is key, and I'll talk about this in just a second, they can be combined with the cruise that comes before or the cruise that follows. And your Expedia Cruises consultant can put them together for you, and you get about a 10% price break when you do this. They'll do it for you, and it's called a collector's voyage. So if you're going to Europe and you see a 14-day itinerary, just take a look at what comes before or after, because quite often you can tack on another itinerary that goes somewhere different in that region and make a cruise maybe that adds on an extra 10 days or 14 days. If you're going to fly there and have that experience, if you can take a little bit more time, you get so much more out of it. Plus there's that price break as well. So look out for those collector's voyages. The fjords is something that can be combined with that last one. A truly majestic area. If you've enjoyed scenic cruising in Alaska, you will love the Norwegian fjords. And I think a Holland America ship just looks the part in these kind of destinations. You know, it doesn't feel the same looking at a majestic waterfall in the Norwegian fjords if you have to look over the top of a go-kart track to do so. You know, Holland America ship just fits in anywhere. And we're very proud that we are permitted to visit parts of the Norwegian fjords that are offline to some ships out there. we meet those and exceed the regulations and requirements environmentally that have been laid down to visit some of those destinations. So we're very proud to be continuing to do our part and progress in that respect. So yeah, you've got Norwegian fjord opportunities on that brand new ship, and there's nothing like the buzz of a brand new ship. I've done it. I've been lucky enough to take out the last, or be part of the inaugural seasons for the last 4 or 5 Holland America Line ships, and it's a real buzz. Folks come from far and wide, mariners who have sailed inaugural sailings before, or folks who have just heard about it at dinner on board ship from other guests about an inaugural sailing or an inaugural season, and they want to be part of it. But the key is, with us, it's not just one inaugural sailing and then back to business as usual. The ship does almost like a rock star tour all around Europe, different itineraries that you can weave together and put together, which is a really magical experience, a real buzz, like I say. If you haven't sailed Northern Europe before, the best place to start is the Baltic. It is like the Mediterranean in many respects. You've got that wonderful mix of art, history, culture, cuisine, language, and it's got that kind of fast pace. So it's a very busy itinerary, but also kind of laid back and relaxing at the same time. It just works so well. So there are many Baltic options. The Rotterdam does have a few sailings in the Baltic. You've got the 2 days in St. Petersburg, so you can see St. Catherine's Palace, the Church of the Spilt Blood, the Hermitage, Tallinn, medieval Tallinn in Estonia, Warnemünde, which is the gateway to Berlin and the Cold War landmarks, Checkpoint Charlie, etc. So some really beautiful ports, some lesser known ports on some of these itineraries too. The reason I wanted to show you this October 2nd date is because it precedes, and remember this when I show you the next slide, it precedes a very special sailing that we are sailing in 2022, and that is the 150th anniversary transatlantic. The Rotterdam, that brand new Pinnacle class ship that I just mentioned, that I just showed you, will be recreating that voyage that took place 150 years earlier, down to the day, same length. The voyage that was sailed by Rotterdam 1, now sailed by Rotterdam 7. You can be part of this. There's already a real kind of buzz around this, a lot of chatter around this, a lot of bookings coming in. So something wonderful to be part of that you can combine with, remember the sailing I just showed you in the Baltic? This is how you combine it to make, and sorry about the resolution of that picture, I'm not sure what happened there, but you can combine that Baltic sailing, 14 days, that relaxing sailing, and then carry on through on the 150th anniversary. Your Expedia Cruises consultant can do that for you. That's how you combine these sailings. It's easy to do, and it's something different as well. So before I wrap up talking about Northern Europe, I do want to make mention of a ship called Volendam. Now, she's one of the 2 smaller ships in the fleet, and she's doing something called Voyages of Distinction. She has become a real globetrotter. She will never repeat the same cruise in Europe. She will literally keep moving on to different ports, picking up itineraries or picking up ports that we would not normally visit. So on the left-hand side, Bordeaux. So the ship will sail into Bordeaux, up the Gironde estuary, so you can during the sail away, sip some Bordeaux while you look out of the vineyards that you were just visiting earlier. It's truly magical. This one includes Dublin as well, which is the biggest city in the world, right? It is the biggest city in the world because it keeps doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling. No? Okay, no. I just wanted to check if you're awake. A few people shaking their heads there. we're getting past the halfway point. I want to make sure you're still with me. But my point is, with these sailings, they are not your typical sailing in Europe. And what's great about them is it's almost turning into an exclusive club in the respect that it's a smaller ship, smallest in the fleet, and folks sometimes like that. They get to know their fellow guests a bit quicker, and the ship never repeats the same cruise twice, so you can stay on for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 voyages. It's not unheard of to do that and pick up some of these lesser known ports. The European River Explorer, this ship will cruise river. You won't find river cruising cruise boats going out into the ocean. We can do both with this ship. So yeah, look out for Volendam. Keep that in mind. And there are some big sailings as well taking place. Some of the all-time Holland America classic, Zandam, doing the Voyage of the Vikings. This is practically sold out. Boston, back to Boston, round trip, Northern Europe, back to North America. It's a Holland America Classic. It sells out every year. We've got it on the books for 2022. We'll be opening up 2023 soon because the demand is that great. And then the one-way version, you can take Copenhagen into Boston, just doing the one-way version on a different ship. This northern route is fantastic for scenic cruising. I've done it once myself, and yeah, it's one that folks rave about once they've completed it. So I'm going to jump down to the Mediterranean. If you have not had your dinner yet, I'm sorry if this slide starts making your tummy rumble and gets the appetite going, but that is the reason why so many folks go to the Mediterranean. It is just a culinary kind of epicenter. Just the colors, the smells, the sights, the sounds. That's why so many folks love the Mediterranean. So I wanted to show you that slide first of all. But we've got some new itineraries and we've got some classics we haven't sailed for about 10 years that we're bringing back. Some ports that you're probably familiar with, some of you may have visited before, but we're bringing back Istanbul. Istanbul hasn't been a cruise port for about 10 years. So there's a lot of pent-up demand. We have cruised there prior to that, you know, for decades and decades, going back a long time. So we're very familiar with Istanbul. I love it. It's one of my favorite places. It's, you know, it straddles Europe and Asia. It's a real feast for the senses. You've got this wonderful kind of perspective that changes in the night from the day. You've got places like the Topkapi Palace, the Blue Mosque, Hagia Sophia, the Kumkapi district. You can take a dinner cruise on the Bosphorus. It's just a remarkable place. And we've brought it back on several sailings. We give you 2 days there. I'll show you those in just a second. Some of the new sailings we're doing are longer. We're trying to wind the clock back on the Mediterranean and give it that feel that it used to have, you know, 30, 40 years ago when ports were very quiet in the Mediterranean. We're trying to include lesser known ports, ports with less cruise traffic, but still give you those marquee ports too. This is a pair of cruises that work together beautifully. You can take these together, make 24 days, you get that price break. You've got the glitzy, glamorous Western Mediterranean on the left, some of those classic ports with late stays in Dubrovnik and Taormina in Sicily, and then the overnight stay in Venice. So 2 days in Venice at the end. That means it cuts out your need for a hotel. And then the sailing on the right is sailing from Venice, 2 days at the start, and that cuts out your need for a hotel that way if you're flying in. And this gives you those Greek islands with that 2-day stay in Istanbul. We're visiting places like Korčula in Croatia on the Istrian Peninsula to get you away from the crowds. Not everyone, if you've been to Dubrovnik, not everyone wants to go to Dubrovnik these days because it is so busy. Lots of folks going there just to see where Game of Thrones was filmed. There's other beautiful ports on that Istrian coastline of Croatia with those charming red roofs, those kind of marble streets and plazas. It has the same feel, but they're kind of more untouched in that respect. So we're mixing those in as well. But these can be taken together. So the Venice element becomes 3 days if you do it as a 24-day. So that's extra time in Venice to explore. And the Volendam, remember I mentioned the ship, the smaller ship that was doing those cool things in Northern Europe, never doing the same cruise twice. She will visit Egypt. We're visiting Alexandria for those tours to the pyramids of Giza, and another destination that has been off the kind of the cruise map for a good 6, 7, 8 years or more now. So we're going back there on the Volendam. Very cool stuff. You can see different types of cruising on the Volendam. So let's spin the globe and come back to Alaska. Now, it wouldn't be right for someone from Holland America to talk to you about cruising without mentioning Alaska. We are Alaska. That's what we've said for many years. We are the experts. We've been sailing there since before Alaska was even a state. For over 70 years, we've had an operation on land as well as by sea. We win awards year after year for good reason. And it's not just the programming, you know, the naturalist on board, the rangers, and the kind of destination immersion. A lot of our recognition comes from the itineraries themselves, because, you know, based out of Vancouver, for example, where I'm coming to you from this evening, I'm in North Vancouver. But for us in Western Canada, there are so many Holland America ships every year. On an average year, or in an average year, I should say, we will dedicate half of our fleet to sail out of Vancouver in one way or the other. No other cruise line can say that. And then you've got those ships from Seattle too, the land operation. So there's really no other cruise operator that gives you that many choices when it comes to the round trip Gulf cruises, inside passage, Yukon, Denali. There's so many different options, but a big part of the recognition and kind of the awards we win are because we offer more glacier viewings. Now, we talk about the fact we have lots of permits. We have 91 permits. That probably doesn't mean much to you, and I'm not surprised. What does it mean? Well, essentially, the cruise line that is awarded the next highest amount of permits is half the amount we're awarded. What that allows us to do is it gives us the ability to visit Glacier Bay more often and for longer. So if you were to equate that to a regular port on land, and you had a choice of cruising with 3 different cruise lines, and you wanted to see a particular port, one of those cruise lines didn't visit that port at all. The other just gave you 2 hours there, and the other stayed all day. That is what it's like with Holland America and Glacier Bay. We give you the full day's Glacier Bay experience, where you get to scenic cruise, not just the Marjorie Glacier. You've got 3 glacier viewing experiences and wildlife sighting opportunities all day, all narrated and guided. So it's a full day experience. And if you think about it, you're paying for that. You're paying for that day at sea. If your cruise line, your cruise ship doesn't spend a day in Glacier Bay, just out in the open ocean, you're paying for that. So the value is there when you have a full day in Glacier Bay. So yeah, a big part of what we do. And an exciting element that I'm certainly excited about, my colleagues are, and I know many Holland America cruisers are in this part of the world, is that our wonderful Koningsdam, sister to that brand new ship Rotterdam. Remember that cool new ship, the Pinnacle class ship that's sailing in, coming online this year in Europe? She has a sister, the first of the Pinnacle class, that will be coming into Vancouver for the very first time. The Koningsdam, Koning meaning king in Dutch. The Koningsdam will be sailing round trip from Vancouver every Saturday. Now, this isn't just kind of a quick, road show for her to come in to Vancouver. She's here every Saturday, sailing in and out under the Lions Gate Bridge. She's small enough to get in and out. We don't have to worry about low tides or anything like that. So she's doing the classic itinerary, which is just such an awesome opportunity for you to not only do the classic Holland America Alaska cruise and have the classic Holland experience in Alaska, but check out the brand new ship with these cool new features. And by the way, it's not just Glacier Bay we get that reputation from in terms of delivering something that the others don't. In Juneau, we will, in most cases, almost all cases, dock downtown Juneau, berths 1 and 2. So you just step out straight into the square with everything right there accessible for you, where other cruise lines will dock in berths 3 and 4, which is 20 minutes walk or a taxi, or the container port where you have to get a taxi or a shuttle in. So we're right there. So it gives you more time in the day to just step off the ship and explore. But I just want to give you a quick kind of inside scoop on the Koningsdam and the Pinnacle class. You remember that lounge I forgot to mention, or I intentionally didn't mention last time? I left it to now to tell you, because this is exclusive to the Pinnacle class ships. We have Rolling Stone rock room. This is that classic 60s, 70s, 80s rock. Think Eagles, think Fleetwood Mac. The classic kind of pub rock. This is a band selected and chosen by Rolling Stone magazine for our ships, and they are phenomenal. So there, you can be in this lounge, then hop over to BB King's Blues Club or the Billboard on board. So music is the key with these ships. Some other lounges you wouldn't have seen if you're a Holland American mariner and you haven't sailed on these ships before. Places like the Grand Dutch Cafe. This is an authentic kind of secondary coffee shop on board, where we serve beautiful Dutch treats and pastries and crepes, teas and coffees served on Royal Delft earthenware, Dutch lagers. There's this wonderful kind of interior section where you can overlook the atrium, or a little external viewing section, but it's a really kind of authentic kind of Europe feel. And then this wonderful fresh, open, kind of sweeping dining room. And I think this is something to think about when people are thinking about, well, I'm going to cruise what type of cruise experience do I have when we return to cruise? Do you want to be on a very small ship, with a low ceiling in the dining room? Because we have those larger spaces, when we find out the exact capacity we'll be working to, we can utilize these wonderful open, fresh spaces like the dining room. So there you go. That's what's happening in Alaska in 2022. Now, I did say at the beginning, Europe, Alaska, and more. I'm finally going to touch on the and more section, because you have to see some of these sailings. In April 2022, that ship that I just mentioned, Koningsdam, is sailing round trip from Vancouver, 18 days round trip, Vancouver to Hawaii. So you can sail on a brand new Pinnacle class to Hawaii. One of our dam ships, Dam, is sailing from Vancouver, finishing in San Diego, 50 days down to the South Pacific. Or you can take a shorter sailing, 35 days from San Diego on the Dam. So really cool options if you're thinking, well, I definitely want to get some travel plans on the books, but I want to keep it fairly close to home from the West Coast. It makes it so much more convenient. I love these two sailings because they combine. Each one is spectacular in its own rights. At the end of 2022, in October, the Dam will sail from San Diego down to Sydney. And then once she gets down there, we will sail our classic Australia circumnavigation all the way around Australia, picking up ports you wouldn't normally visit if you're doing a regular Australia tour, even including Indonesia, Komodo Island in Indonesia. And that's one that sells out quickly every time we have it on the book. So these can be combined to make a 79-day collector's voyage, and you get that 10% price break. The other big news that just was announced a week or so ago is that on the east coast of Canada, the other third Pinnacle class ship, the new Statendam, the newest ship in the fleet, will now be sailing not just the regular Canada New England cruises, Boston, Quebec, with the overnight city in Quebec, but she's also sailing 24 days up to Iceland and Greenland round trip. That one I just have questions about almost every day. It's proven to be so popular right now. And our 10-day sailing on September 7th has Newfoundland. So it's a Canada New England sailing, but with Newfoundland as well. And before I wrap up, I've got to tell you about the big ones. Last two sailings from me, and then we're done. The Grand Voyage for 2023 is out now, and also the Grand Voyage for 2022 is out now. Speak with your Expedia Cruises consultant about these. They are truly phenomenal bucket list sailings. There are some special deals you get when you book these before June 1st. And it is not true. I have to say, it is absolutely not true that you gain £1 for every day you're on board ship. If it was, it wouldn't be good. Let's put it that way. But the Grand Voyages book up so quickly every year. We're seeing again, as Susan mentioned, sorry, at the start, the interest in 2022 and 2023 is just phenomenal. What we're seeing right now, so much kind of pent up travel that folks want to get on the books, and so much kind of dreaming that's being done now being converted into bookings. The other big one that is, I think this is actually sold out. I should have taken this out the deck right now, but we're hopefully releasing it for 2023 very soon. If you're interested in that, speak with one of the Expedia Cruises Red Deer team, and they can help you make a placeholder booking for the following year. But it's our Grand Africa voyage, round trip from Fort Lauderdale. So a couple of things just to wrap up. Right now through to the end of the month, for sailings that's sailing this year through to October, we have kind of a book with confidence program. So if you have to cancel, as long as you cancel by 30 days prior, you don't need to worry about penalties. You get a future cruise credit. This is the big promotion that we have right now. It's called Save Now, Cruise Later, or Have It All. And it's for pretty much everything you've seen except those grand voyages. But Europe, Alaska, Canada, New England, South Asia, Australia, Pacific, anything like that for 2022, summer 2022 and beyond, we've got a great deal. It's the drinks, the gratuities, the dining package. If you're in a suite, you get Wi-Fi. And the great part about this, it combines with the fantastic offers that Expedia Cruises Red Deer can leverage too. They have access to something called Expedia exclusive staterooms. That is essentially because they are connected to their large network, and they're able to leverage an economy of scale, and they get benefits passed on to them from us in terms of lower rates and extra amenities that they pass on to you. So you'll get a better deal every single time booking through Expedia Cruises Red Deer than you would coming to Holland America directly. So make sure you're booking through them. The great thing here is both the Holland America benefits and Expedia Cruises Red Deer benefits combined. So it's kind of a double dip. And then we've got another little extra layer as a triple dip that Susan and myself kind of put together just for this show, or virtual event. And that is, if you are ready to book something in the next week, if you're ready, there are some extra shipboard credits if you want to book something in the next 8 days through till March 11th. You'll get some extra shipboard credit there, and that combines with what we've just spoken about. But the one thing I would like to kind of reinforce, just finally, aside from the deals that Expedia Cruises Red Deer can source for you, they have all the deals and the expertise, or sorry, I should say deals and resources at their fingertips for all the cruise lines, for all cruises, hotel, whatever it may be. They have access to it across the board, and they have the expertise as well. And they are there for you in a pinch, because we know even in a good year and a normal year, plans can change, flights can get interrupted. So it's just invaluable to know you have your kind of advocate, your personal cruise expert who is there one phone call away, one email away, there in your community, a real person in your community who is there and can take care of you and give you all these great specials. So that's why I highly recommend working with the Expedia Cruises Red Deer. So that's it from me. I'm not sure if we have any questions that have been typed in. Should we check the box?
Yeah, we don't have any questions, but that anybody chatted, but does anybody have any questions? You can unmute yourself and just ask away. Tom, did you want to stop sharing and then
Yeah,
they
let me
can
take
see
this off my
us
screen.
instead, maybe?
Right.
There we go. Anybody have any questions at all? Thank you, Tom, for the shout out about booking with the team. Just to let everybody know, this team has been absolutely incredible over the last year. The amount of hours, endless hours that they spent protecting their clients and rebooking and repricing the airfare and everything else like that. The hours, we even had people calling asking us that didn't book with us if we could take over their file, and of course we can't. So thank you for that. They've done an incredible amount of work for their clients behind the scenes. So appreciate the support very much. Anybody have any questions? Okay, so yeah, so thank you, and thank you for the value add. Whoops, here we go. Are you 2022 and 2023? Yes, the 2022 itineraries are 100% out. 2023, 100% out, Tom, or? Oh, you're on mute.
So let me unmute myself.
Yeah, that's okay.
By the way, thanks for the question. Yeah, so all of 2022, what we have available for 2023 now is what we're seeing a lot of the kind of winter, spring destinations open up. I would say we have about 50% of those open already. Things like, Asia, Australia, as you've seen towards the back end of 2022 into spring 2023. But over the coming month or so, maybe several months, you'll start to see more of 2023 become available. We know the demand is there, so we want to get them out earlier for sure.
Yeah, that's great. And, we do that a lot with our clients. When we know of an itinerary destination that they're interested in going to, we kind of put them in a special list. And so when that itinerary becomes available, we jump right on it, because we will know that people are dying to get out for the next couple of years. So these will be going quickly. Another great question. So thank you, Melanie, for asking that question. That was great. Jim asked, what is the status with inside rooms with Holland America? Jim, did you want to elaborate about the status, or are you wanting to know what they're like?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. We can.
Okay. Yeah, just listening to Cruise Critic and some other media centers, a lot of the cruise lines now are looking at possibly shutting down their inside rooms. That would eliminate a lot of low cost.
It's there. I mean, there hasn't been that. Well, there haven't been any directives or there haven't been any. We haven't received any guidance on that officially. Nothing has been ratified. I'm sure we will find out. I think as an industry as a whole, we are expecting when we get closer to return to sail, certain kind of capacity restrictions to be put in place. We don't know how that will break down across the categories. So many interiors, ocean view verandas. Yeah, we have to wait and see. We certainly haven't been given that directive. So as of now, we are open and booking interior rooms, ocean view rooms, all the categories.
Yeah, I haven't heard that at all. I haven't even heard of rumbling about that at all. I don't know how they could completely. I mean, there's less and less inside staterooms just because of the demand for balconies
Yeah.
for
One thing I would,
people. But
oh, sorry, Susan, I was going to say one thing I would add to that is every cruise line is coming from a different starting point. I think there are some cruise lines that perhaps have more interior staterooms. They have those interiors, kind of ocean views that are technically interiors that overlook interior portions of the ship. So you have ships that maybe have a higher percentage of interiors, so it's more of an issue, and maybe they have speculated, but we certainly haven't. Yeah, we're all coming from a different standpoint. I mean, we haven't had things like a self-service buffet for probably 10 years or more. All the buffets are plated for you. So, you know, for a cruise line that has things like self-service buffets, they have to make much kind of broader changes in their operation, where we already come from a different standpoint. And like I say, all cruise lines have a different capacity, different kind of allocations of interior, ocean view, veranda, different sizes. We'll see. We have to wait till we get a bit closer and we get more guidance from the CDC and the framework.
and that's one thing I loved about your cruises is the salad bars. I always talk about the salad bars because they're the great big bowls, but you don't touch any of the food and nobody else touches the food. So it's really nice to have the staff behind, and just you can tell them how much of whatever you want to put into it, and then they toss it and everything else for you. So, and that was going on like years before, right? So you're right. They already had a lot of different protocols that other lines
That's
might.
it. We've already operationalized those things, so we kind of know how to run them. So hopefully in some areas of the ship we're making smaller tweaks, and then we can concentrate on the larger changes elsewhere. But yeah, watch this space. Just keep checking that page, or check with the Expedia Cruises team for those updates as we release them.
Yeah. No, but great. But thanks for asking that question. That yes, because that site I know can give some misinformation. So we always like people to come to us so that we can get them the correct answers. So any other questions at all? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for taking your time out to join us this evening. We really appreciate your support. And of course, Tom, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year.
Take care, everyone. Hopefully I'll see you in person in the not too distant future. Take care.
Yeah.
Have a good one, everyone.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Take care.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.